Yeah, speaking of technology, I'm going to be covering no bullshit local SEO. So I did a very similar presentation to this a little while ago, but I kind of modified it for everybody here. You can tell them on it.
Get it together.
Yeah. Yeah, so no bullshit SEO, basically the whole concept, like we all know, search engine optimization is super expensive. I think a lot of small businesses don't realize, and I think most people in this room probably are kind of beyond that, but a lot of small businesses don't realize that there's different types of SEO that you can optimize for. One of the cheapest, most efficient, and best returns is with local SEO. If you talk to an SEO person, there's going to be a lot of different definitions of what local SEO is. Some people think it's, if you just have the city name and a keyword, that's local SEO. That's what you're optimizing for. If it's, Google Maps, then that's local SEO. So for this specifically, we're talking about ranking in Google Maps and trying to get into the 3-pack. And I can't see a time on here, so if somebody wants to just give me a 10-minute warning, we're getting close to like 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock? It's 2:30.
Oh, it's already 2:30? Holy cow. Yeah, give me 3 o'clock. Yeah, man, you probably want to, yeah. Okay, anyway, I'll go as fast as I can. So basically, what I'm going to cover is the signals that Google Maps looks at, getting reviews, and just touching on that very briefly, website signals, building citations, tier 2 links, what all that means, and then delegating, super important, as Elena knows. So hiring an SEO and kind of what that looks like. And what you should be looking for, and just some general red flags, because I see a lot of people running into that issue where I hired an SEO and I paid them all this money, I didn't get anything for it, so all SEO is bad. There are bad SEOs. There's not like you can't go get a degree in this, so they probably had the best intentions, but there are certain things that people who have done it for a long time know that people who haven't don't. So and just a little disclaimer, SEO is always changing, so I might present something now that might not work next week. So in each section could be like a super long presentation, so I'm going to breeze through stuff pretty quick. You should get 90% of what you need to know, but there's always more in the depth weeds. Yeah, and I do have a resource at the end that you're going to have a link for. So save questions towards the end. I might cover what you're going to ask about, but this will help me kind of be efficient and roll through it. So if you have a question, write it down and we'll get to it. So anyways, people are probably like, why is this guy talking about SEO? So for those that don't know, I did SEO for about 10 years before I started a cleaning company. I worked for a company called Voice Media Group. In a lot of cities, they run local newspapers. So Dallas Observer, Phoenix New Times, the Denver Westward, I think, is the Denver paper. But they have about 11 of those, or they did. Anyway, business was failing. They brought in a bunch of people to do digital marketing because they weren't making any, classified ads anymore. So I was one of those people. We grew that in like a year and a half to over 1,000 clients doing specifically what I'm talking about right now, local SEO. And then I went on to do consulting for a company called iCrossing, which is owned by Hearst Corporation. And I was consulting for companies like Microsoft, Starwood Hotels, and PetSmart, talking specifically about SEO. My whole job was just to go in there and tell them what they're messing up on and fix it. I mean, I wouldn't even fix it. I would just say, here, developers, here's a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, so that's me. And that's what I know about SEO. Super quick, I want to talk about the anatomy of the search results and kind of breeze through this really quick. The search results are different for each keyword you're trying to rank for, and they're different for everyone. So where Google Maps might do one thing in a certain geo, it might not do that in another. So for those of us who have access to Google local service ads, those take up a huge chunk and are taking a lot of attention away from the map pack. So in geos where those, when I say geo, there's the location that that's rolled out in, it might be a little different for you, whether Google Maps does really, really well or just okay. So the Google local service ads, Google Map Paps, what we're going to try to rank for. That's, a search right around here for restaurants. There's featured snippets, there's knowledge graph, Google News, Google products. So really depending on what you want to know or what you're looking for, you want to make sure that before you're doing any like actual SEO, you just have an idea of like, oh, I want to rank for home cleaning. What does that look like in my city? Because it might be a little different. So then where are the organic results with all those different featured snippets? They're happening all the way down here. So organic results are all the way down here. And this is just on like a PC. If you're on your mobile phone, it's like 3 or 4 scrolls to get to organic results. Those are the most expensive results to rank in. So for me, I ended up getting number 1 for this search result. I stopped doing it because it was so expensive to keep up. But my ranking is like right here. I'm like literally right there. But I just didn't have enough screen real estate to throw me in there. And I was ranking above Yelp, but I was spending about $1,200 a month, and I had to do it for about a year. And I had another service that was doing it for me. They were friends of mine, so they were even giving me a discount. But it was about $10,000 invested, or probably closer to 11 by the time I was ranking. And they rolled out the Google Local Services. So now it's Google Local Services, these ads, these map packs, and then I'm ranking down here. I get almost no business from it, even ranking that high in Phoenix for whatever reason. So just something to keep in mind, whether or not this is even worth it for you. But that's why I like the map pack, because you will get business from that. So yeah, covered all that. So yeah, there we go. So my general advice is whatever you're doing, do an actual search, see what's up there, and optimize for that. So in this example, Yelp is ranking super high in Phoenix for home cleaning and map pack, and then Google Local Services. So I'm on Google Local Services, I'm ranking in the map pack, and I'm not even really bothering with this anymore because it's so far down. Ranked for it, doing okay, but it's just, not worth it. So a couple different types of SEO, like we briefly touched on. Google Maps, local SEO, and organic SEO, kind of the 2 main types that most businesses are going to be looking at. Google Maps is taking a huge percentage of the screen. Organic SEO focuses on the relevancy of a site and with on-site and off-site factors, and then the page relevance, so what words are on the page, which is because it uses so many different signals and they're hard signals to fake. It makes it super expensive to rank for those, which is why I'm kind of like, it's not worth it. If you're in a smaller city, it's going to be a lot easier than if you're in Phoenix or New York City or Chicago. That always changes, which is why this advice is not generic. You kind of have to really consider where you're at. So we're focusing on Google Maps. A couple terms to know, because I'm going to mention these, and they're just good to know when you're talking to SEOs and doing SEO stuff. A backlink is any incoming link from one web page to another. So when SEOs talk about doing offsite SEO for you, they're going to mention how many backlinks they're going to get you, or they're going to be doing backlink outreach. That's what they're trying to get for you. Anchor refers to anchor text of a hyperlink. So that comes up a lot. Basically, a piece of HTML code. That's the URL. That's the anchor text. It's the blue thing that you click on when you're looking at a website. I also mentioned private blog networks, or PBNs. Those are places where you can buy links from that are specifically built for people doing SEO on them. So they look like, private blog networks. Any questions so far? Kind of running through stuff fast, trying to get us caught up.
Did you spend $1,200 a month on the organic SEO? I think I heard that wrong.
No.
Okay, did you hear that wrong?
No, I did spend that.
You heard it right.
Right.
So you were paying like somebody $12 a month to work on the pages.
Yeah, so even being a guy who knows SEO and I know how to do everything they were doing, it was worth it for me to delegate. So I have some friends that I trust at a company called Executive Digital, and I paid them because this is especially when I was first starting out in my business. And SEO was not the first thing I invested in either. I did Yelp until I could, because for me, that was the one that was working out really well, until I was kind of tapped out on that. And no matter how much I spent in terms of ads and whatever, I just wasn't getting any more back. Then I started doing SEO. And I tried a bunch of different things. There was something else that I was doing too. It's like I did Yelp, and then I started doing Google ads because they were still working for me back then. And then I started doing SEO as like the last thing that I'm working on, because it has a long tail for return. SEO, if you're doing it right, it will take 6 months to a year to get from 0 to showing up in that map pack #1. And that's if you're doing everything right and the company's not messing up, which is the other reason why it's so important if you're hiring somebody to pick the right person or to measure KPIs, key performance indicators, to make sure that they're making progress, because you can't get that time back.
Yeah.
Jason.
It feels like sometimes it might not be worth it. I want your opinion on this because Yelp or Home Advisor or all these big names are somehow cramming themselves up all the time.
Yeah, and they have an advantage of this huge, like Yelp is like the 55th most visited website, most popular website in the world. So like outranking them is really, really hard. You can do it, but it takes a lot. You know, the basic advantage is they have a really powerful domain, but their individual pages aren't always super reflective of that. So you can compete. Like I forgot who said they spend a bunch of money on the website, but what they were doing when they were changing that content is they were adding a bunch of content because Yelp's not going to have 2,000 words on house cleaning in Phoenix. But if you can kind of compete there, a lot of times that, the combination of backlinks will get you to outrank them. Time consuming that it sounds. You've got to build a bunch of backlinks. You got to make sure your website's set up. It's a lot of work.
What are they doing that makes us so that they just, is it the authority of their website?
I mean, it's the authority of their website and I mean, they came out the gate strong. Like they had a bunch of people from like YouTube and PayPal, I think, that started Yelp. So, they go out and do a press release. They instantly get like on the New York Times, like backlinks. So they're starting out the gate strong. And then every business that does something says, hey, check out my Yelp page, and links to it on their Facebook and social media. And, so they naturally have a viral loop built in there. It makes it really hard to compete with them.
Did that Maps update hit every city? Are you saying that was kind of geographically dependent? It was in November.
Oh,
there was a November.
Google local services?
No. There's a November Google 3-pack update that hit me hard.
Really?
I was ranking #1 full city.
Yeah.
And I was ranking #1 in one zip code overnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of research on it. It wasn't affecting me a ton, so I didn't do a super deep dive on it. But my understanding too is that before it was very much like a radius thing, like how far away you are. And if you looked at the data, you'd be ranking #1 here, but #2 here, but #3 here. And the further you went away from where your home base was, the lower you were ranking. And they changed that. So like you're 1 here, you're 2 here, you're 3 here, you're 4 here, but you're 1 over here.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I haven't done enough research on it because, like I said, it didn't really affect me a ton. Cool. So yeah, that's a better answer. Anyway. So ranking Google Maps, like we said, it's cheaper, it's easier, and it appears higher in search results. So, even if money wasn't an issue, you get more traffic from this. So this is where I always focus. So what Google Maps looks at specifically to rank you in the map pack and to show you higher in Google Maps is a combination of things. It wants to see a well-optimized Google listing. So we're talking about that, full written out description, all your categories are in there and make sense. And you've got a couple of reviews. I'll kind of go into that a little bit later. But they want a website also linked to it with relevant content. So I remember specifically when I was working at Voice Media Group, there was a customer in New York who we could not get to rank for anything. All we were doing was optimizing the Google Maps page. Didn't have any access to their website because they were just paying us like $300 a month before we learned that we could charge more. And we couldn't get it to rank. So I started doing a deep dive on it, and we look at their website. It's a restaurant in New York that did Italian food. And you're reading the website, and the website just talks about how we were 4 guys sitting in a bar, and then we decided to start this thing. So now we're doing this thing. And they just went on and on about why they were doing this, but not mentioning that this was a Italian restaurant. They didn't say Italian restaurant anywhere on there. They didn't have their menu listed. It was just a big, long, rambling, like 3-paragraph thing about like how cool they were. And I was like, you guys, like you selling pasta, like talk about that. And, that was the fix. And then they started ranking, but like, you want to have a website link there that makes sense, that has a little bit of on-site SEO done, enough that Google understands that, oh, this is a cleaning company. Citations, this is probably one of the biggest things. It's become less important with the updates, but it's still super, super important. And basically what a citation is just like when you're doing your, homework back in college and you needed to cite a source. It's just that information, but in regards to a business. So the name, address, and phone number for that business, that's referred to as the NAP information for short. So they want to see that appearing multiple times throughout the internet. The more it appears, the higher authoritative they think you are, and the more reliable they think the information is. So if you've got your name, address, and phone number in that kind of group appearing on 1,000 different websites, they're way more confident than when it's only on your Facebook page or only on one other citation, like, Super Pages or something, Yellow Pages. So the more often you have that appearing, the higher you're going to rank. And this is also why local SEO is a lot cheaper, because it's easy to pay somebody to just go, hey, what's my name, address, phone number, places. You also want that to be, this is another place that a lot of people run into issues. One of the big culprits is hashtags or unit number or suite number. If you put apartment number or unit number or a hashtag for like, your mailing address, Yelp, for example, will change it to suite number. They don't care if it's an actual apartment or a business or it's a hashtag listed with the, post service. They're going to change it to suite number, and that's going to mess up your citation because it's different. It's just different enough. Same thing with like spelling out street versus putting ST period versus ST. You want it to be super consistent all the time. Same thing with like your phone number. Like you could put a 1 in front of it or not put a 1 in front of it, or whatever, but just you want it to be consistent. And then location relevant to the searcher. So, obviously if you're in, Tucson, which is about 100 miles away from here, trying to search for a home cleaning business in Phoenix, the ones in Tucson are going to rank higher. But that ends up affecting some people that maybe are far away from the city center. So if, I know this geography a little bit better, but if your main business is in Phoenix and somebody's searching for you in Gilbert, they're more likely to find somebody that's closer to them. So in Phoenix, it's a big city, it's very spread out, so that plays a big role. So I'm sure Jason can attest his places in Gilbert and mine's in Phoenix. So if I look at like an actual map of where all my rankings are and where my customers are coming from, it's very central around where my kind of home base is. And I'm sure it's probably pretty similar for Jason, not 100%, but it makes a difference, small, but it's there. So listing optimization. You want to make sure you're choosing a very specific category. So for cleaning, for example, Google gives you a couple options, like janitorial services one, cleaning services another, I believe. It's been a while since I've looked at them because I haven't set one up in a couple of years, but you want to make sure it's super specific. So if you're not doing like commercial janitorial work, don't list that as something you do. Specific as possible. In terms of the category, fill out everything that you can. So website, phone number, write a business description, a well-written one. More information is always better. So if you can get 1,000-word business description, do it. You don't have to, but you want it to be well-written and it contain keywords. Like we are a house cleaning company. We specialize in deep cleanings and move in, move out cleanings and whatever. Google's going to use the keywords in there to determine relevance for if somebody's searching for something that maybe isn't your main keyword, home cleaning. It's move in, move out cleaning, because people search for that sometimes, not often, but people do. The more of that kind of stuff you get in there, the better. Within reason. If you do too much of that, then that's actually a red flag. It goes the other way. Anyway, you want to use high quality photos. For a while, people were saying you want to put geographic information in the meta description or the metadata for the photos, but I don't really think that works anymore. But yeah, high quality photos is good. Use a local number. Google prefers local area codes towards like a 1-800 number as an example. And then you want to encourage reviews. So you don't need to have thousands of reviews. So you'll do a Google search any given place and somebody will have 100 ranking number 3 and somebody with 20 will be ranking number 1. It's not everything, but up to a certain point, Google tends to prefer people with at least 5 to 10 reviews. And after that, it's a really big, steep diminishing return on actual rankings. So reviews, if you're just getting started with a new place, maybe open a new location, you do want to get a couple of reviews. So I just am listing this really quick. And shout out to Carl for the review contest. We've been using that. It's been working awesome. So we do the happy customer follow-ups. Hey, you like the service, leave us a review. Asking family and friends. Like when I first got started, or I first opened a new location, I started in Tucson maybe a year and a half ago, and I just ask my mom to leave me a review. Like my first review, like, hey mom, hey girlfriend, hey, whoever, can you guys leave me a review? Like, I already did. No, it's a new location.
Yeah.
You need to get the ball rolling a little bit and get some momentum there. So it doesn't matter who it is, just ask for it. Or you could buy them. There's this company, SEO Master 24.com, kind of shady. I wouldn't suggest buying them. They don't all stick, but sometimes buying a couple can be a way to get a little boost. But, you really only want to do this in a pinch, but it was around like $20 a review or something. So that is an option. I figured I would just throw that out there. Review exchanges is another one. These have a little bit more of a tendency to stick, but I've had some bad experiences with them too. So there are groups on Facebook that you can just type review exchange and like 5 or 6 groups will pop up, and you just wait for people to make a comment. Hey, I need a review. Anybody want to exchange? You send them a private message. Hey, I'd love to trade reviews with you. They'll say, review this thing. And you'll be like, okay, review my thing. And those tend to stick a little bit better, but it is a lot of work to just sit there and
There are
hunt
also people
down.
that crawl those groups and then they do 1-star reviews.
That's what happened to me. No, you probably had the same person that did it to me, because there was a
I
person.
don't do that either. Like,
Oh, really? Well, there was one person.
You're the
but
crawler.
I think it was probably like in one of the maid service
Yeah.
groups even. Yeah.
Because it happened to multiple people. We had, I didn't even do it a lot. I did it like once or twice, but I posted a comment like, happy to exchange a review, message me, which I learned you shouldn't do, because somebody went through the group and just left everybody on that group a comment that was like, they're paying for reviews or whatever. And if anybody says anything like that, you can get them removed, but it's just annoying that you have to do that.
Somebody kept leaving us reviews.
I could
like that.
not.
Oh, really?
We've never done it. We've never paid for
Right.
We've never done it. Just somebody like vigilante.
Yeah, I've had that. Yeah.
We never did this.
Yeah.
But
It's review
people got
vigilante.
that.
Right.
Like, what the hell?
It's-
They're not
yeah.
just, like, first-time account.
I don't know. Some people just have this weird like,
They too
I'm gonna be
much time in their
Batman, and yeah, I'm
They had
gonna
a
save the
business
world
that
from this.
hands. Good
And,
job.
and a lot of times, because you're probably similar to me, where you have a really good reputation, and like even before I was started doing this stuff, like usually when I wanted to do this stuff was when somebody left me a 1-star review, and it's like I don't even know this. They're not in my customer list. Like I've never this thing they're describing, So sometimes it's just you just get weird ones, but you can report them. Google's not as good at removing them as Yelp, but you can get it done. So
Alpine Mates.
those are.
Actually, it wasn't. It was
We wanted some nice
Tracy.
atmosphere. The food was okay.
Anyway, so then website signals, that's another one that a lot of people miss when they're doing this. Most businesses are going to have enough on there that Google's going to understand like, oh, this is a cleaning company. But for people like that Italian restaurant that I had, you want to have some information on your website. If you're not doing the full organic SEO, it's still worth it to even pay somebody just to go in and do a one-time on-site SEO optimization. Most of our websites are probably going to be somewhere between 20 to 30 pages. Somebody will do that for you for around $1 to $2 grand for a decent person to go in and do it. Just do some keyword research, optimize the pages, make sure it makes sense. That's even worth it just for kind of this benefit you get on Google Maps. The more Google changes things and changes their algorithm, that tends to be where they're leaning for most of the signals they take advantage of. And then, if you're doing like the helper reporter out, like Derek was suggesting last time, having the on-site optimization helps a lot to complement that. So sometimes you can kind of get away from paying for an SEO by doing helper reporter out and having at least an on-site optimization done.
I've gotten a lot of those. I've done a lot of those. I actually stopped
Yeah.
doing them.
I stopped doing it too. It's a lot of work,
It is.
but it's not super hard. You just have to do
When I
it.
Google my name, I see all these little articles
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yep.
It's like,
That's
you
kind
got
of
that.
cool.
yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
WikiHow expert.
Yes.
Doesn't it help SEO too?
It does.
Yeah, that's the main reason you do it. And a lot of times you won't get links. So like I got one from I want to say Associated Press. I think but I was super excited because it got distributed everywhere. Like yeah, no, it was good. All of a sudden my tidy costs started showing up on like abc.com and like all these different things because that's all they do is the name of the company.
Does that help?
But
It
does. It still helps. But I was a little bummed out. I was super excited for nothing. But yeah, it still helps. Yeah. Yeah, but I just got lucky. I was following Derek's advice from the last time and looking for the ones that were anonymous, because those are the ones that are like some big time something company, news organization.
Yeah, I've been utilizing the news for my
Yeah, I
catching
saw that.
and I'm like, we've actually gotten clients from it and stuff. And then
you want the whole story? Check the news.
Yes,
Oh my goodness.
we want the whole story. Sign up to be a weekly client here.
Oh wow, that's hilarious.
The news put it on their Twitter, and then we just added a weekly client from Twitter. And I don't advertise on Twitter, but that's what we traced it to. All of my random. I think we've been on the news like 4 times in like the last 2 weeks for
Killing it.
stuff.
Yeah,
It's
so
funny, though.
citations is this is the hardest part, and this is what you really want to focus on. And this is the thing that you're gonna have to do every month if you're doing it. When I say do it every month, it's not as hard as a lot of these SEO companies make it out to be. So basically, when you're doing a local SEO package or a Google Maps package with an SEO company, what they're going to do is they're going to go in and optimize your Google My Business page, maybe review a couple things, and then they're literally going to buy citations from one of these websites. And it takes about 5 minutes to do, which is one of the reasons that, I always tell people about this. Like, if it's worth it to you to delegate the time and get that time back in your life, great. But straight up, you can just go buy this shit. Pardon my French. And it's not as expensive as you would think. It's about $70 a month to get like 30 citations. So anyway, name, address, phone number, and NAP. That's what we're looking for with the citations. Right, Local has a service that does it. Moz Local is an aggregator that distributes things out. I'll give you a couple more links for different types of citations that you can get. And then you can do a press release with your name, address, and phone number in there. Those count, and they're a big boost, but we'll kind of cover those a little bit later. And it usually takes around 150 to 200 citations in a decent sized city. So like in Phoenix, if you want to rank #1, the people that are ranking #1, if you just kind of use some parameters and just look for how many citations they have, they're going to have somewhere around 150, 200 if you're like a restaurant. Cleaning companies aren't as aggressive. So maybe you'll have 100, but it's variable. Pretty much the way to do this is to keep buying citations until you either kind of run out and can't buy anymore because you've got your website listed on every website, or you're ranking #1.
Do you recommend doing something like that instead of having a VA do it for you?
VA can totally do it for you. Yeah, I mean, this is something you can totally outsource. It's like with Bright Local, you make an account, they've got your credit card in there. You could buy tokens and just say, hey, VA, go and log in, buy some citations every couple of months. And it literally takes about 5 minutes because they save all your information. You just got to go in and click the button. I want some more. Let's get some more. So
What if you change addresses?
they also have a service that will go through and help update those. And Moz Local can also help with that because they're a review aggregator. But we'll touch base on those. So citations are important. I mentioned review aggregators. So there's a couple ways that these businesses, so like the Yellow Pages or Apple Maps or random websites you've never heard of, like Hot Frog, that you'd only know if you were an SEO, Monta.com, like these are all like Yelp type clones or business directories. And nobody's ever heard of them, but they've got a list of your business probably, or at least they should. And the big part, like, how do they get it? These review aggregators. There's about 5 of them. So some of the examples are like Localese or Info Group. There's another one called Axiom, I think. But I mean, they're pretty irrelevant to know the names or whatever. Just, oh yeah, Axiom, I was right. Cool. But they all they do is collect it and resell it. So if you're Hot Frog or Comcast apparently has a directory, or Yellowbot, which I've never heard of, they're buying their information from Yext or getting it from, Google Plus Local, apparently. But there are a lot of them that, get it from whoever's the cheapest. So for a lot of them, Localese powers a ton of these. So, and you don't have an ability to distribute to them, or at least I haven't been able to figure out how to do it unless you're giving them like thousands of, businesses. Like They don't want it. So what Bright Local and Moz Local will do, these are my two favorites, is Moz Local has a pack, or Moz Local, this is all they do is submit to aggregators, and Bright Local has a package, it's like 70 or 80 bucks, and they will submit to them for you. The other trick with Moz Local is they want to charge you every year to keep this up. You really only need to do it once. When you submit to these aggregators, between going from here to being submitted on one of these directories, it takes about 3 to 4 months, depending. So what you should see if you're kind of looking at the back end of like your backlinks or your number of citations is week 1, you won't have anything. Month 1, you'll have some things. Month 2, you'll have some others. And then eventually after 3 or 4 months, they're usually distributed to everybody. And then if you update your address, it's the same thing, but in reverse, it takes a little while for those to all get distributed and updated and fixed. So they're a great way to get started. And if you haven't done one, because they're so cheap, it's like $70, you might as well do it. It also helps with, keeping everything consistent because it's the same bit of data getting submitted to everybody. And then the couple of big ones that they don't do would be like the ones you need to claim, like Facebook or Yelp.
Have you seen any negative effect on rankings by using these services? Because I
haven't.
always fear Google's going to look at these as black hat. It's not a natural progression.
But like, subscription, because I let it lapse once, and I was like, it won't matter. My rankings just, I don't, and maybe it was something else. But
Yext is kind of
just out of fear. I just bought it.
Yeah. Well, Yext is different. So Yext is literally just doing this. They have a couple other things that they do, like they'll monitor reviews for you and some other stuff. When I was working at iCrossing, a handful of people there loved Yext, but they all had like Yext swag, so I think they were biased because they would like come into our office and hang out and like do presentations for us and stuff. But that's why I like Moz Local. I don't really suggest Yext. It's super expensive, and I guarantee that when you cancel, they probably tell the aggregators that to close it down and the business isn't in business anymore because they want you to keep paying. I don't know if it's still true, but as of like a year or 2 ago when I read this, Moz Local doesn't. They submit it, and then if you cancel, they just forget about you. So you can do it for a year. Moz Local is a little bit more expensive. It's like $120 last time I checked. It used to be 80, but they raised the prices. But you can just cancel, and your stuff is still going to be on there. You'd want to give it, a couple of months before you cancel, but
change my listing while Yext still owns them, or if I'm just on heroin, like Yext heroin, I have to have them forever. Anyway.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I haven't had to transition anybody, but I usually stay away from Yext just because it is really expensive, and you can do it for cheaper. So Bright Local is probably the cheapest right now. They'll submit to all the aggregators for you for like $70. Yeah, and Yext is like $400 a month or something.
No, it's $500 a year.
Oh yeah, well that's still way more.
Still every year.
I just remember I looked at it once and I was like, nope. Oh, I gotta wake up.
Get off that Yext heroin.
So anyway, citation aggregators, great way to get started. It's going to get you ranking in maps and showing up. You're probably not going to be in the 3-pack yet because you need to, push a little bit harder unless you're in a very small geo. Oh crap. Okay. I'm going to roll through this. Okay. So press release is another thing that you can do. I'm not going to touch base on it a ton, but I am including a link here where Web 2.0 Ranker has a really great blog post from about 2 years ago. It talks about doing these press releases. They've got a package that they'll sell you for like $70 where they'll do these press releases for you. When I did it, I ended up getting like 200 citations from it.
Well, really?
Yeah. The shitty part is most of the citation people, so these are like local news stations, local radio stations, they'll take them down after 60 to 90 days. So I don't have any of them anymore, but it's a good way to get a boost. Like, so for me, when I was going into Tucson, did one of these, and it was a stupid press release, and like literally anybody will pick it up because it was dumb. It was like, Tidy Casa goes to Tucson, and like that was the press release. Like, who would want to read that? But I got like 200 citations from it, from these like, but they just pick it up, and then they've got a bunch of information on like including the NAP information, embedding a Google Maps map with you in it. You want to have some branded links to your Google My Business page, a naked link in the contact information. So under the contact information, just http:// tidicasa.com. Yeah, just be prepared for them to get rid of them after a couple of months, but it's still good. Like we were saying, those aggregators take 3 to 4 months. So you do this by the aggregators, and then you should have a pretty consistent, steady amount of citations. Or you could just do one of these press releases every, 3 months. You could do that too. The other thing that you want to do is manually build citations. So a lot of these directories use the aggregators, but all of them. So the other thing that I do is I'll buy the aggregators, have them distribute for me, and then I'll go in and buy what are called manual citations. They're exactly what they sound like. So dude in the Philippines just types in your stuff or copy pastes it, and that's it. Some resources for that. Web 2.0 Ranker does some that are decent. Bright Local has a bunch, and so does Whitespark. I haven't used Whitespark in like 5 years, but Bright Local's been pretty great about it. They give you a nice report like this one. That's one I did for them recently. They have a list of, it's kind of hard to read on here, but they have a list of websites. I can click on the URL, see that they're live, check that they're legit, which is awesome. Web 2.0 Ranker has something kind of similar, and they also have different lists. So after about 3 months of buying like 30 citations a month or 20 citations a month, whatever I was buying, I ran out of citations for Bright Local. They didn't have any more they could submit to. So then I went to Web 2.0 Ranker, and they had a bunch more that I was able to submit to. So yeah, and that's what you kind of need to sort of get you over the hump of, oh, I got into 100 directories with this citation aggregator. Now I need another, 30 or 40. And for a lot of people in the room, you might not need that depending on where you're located. It just depends on the competition, really. So last and final thing that's a little bit harder to do is what are called tier 2 links. So for a lot of it, and this is like really going back to like super gray hat, black hat days, what SEOs would do is they would build like tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, and then a link to your main site. So this is, tidycasa.com, and this is going to be Yelp. And then these are all going to be a bunch of, BS links that are cheaper, but are helping build up the authority of this one. And if this one is a strong enough website like Facebook or Yelp or whatever, you can essentially use it as a pass-through. And this used to not be a thing for citations, but it's been working more and more. And this seems to be the thing that you need to kind of push yourself over the edge if you're ranking in like position like 3 or 4 and can't quite figure out how to get one step higher, is you just build links to the link to your link. For every citation, like I said, you're going to have like 200 of these. If you do want to do it to the main ones, and that's a super important piece, because if you're passing links through Yelp or Facebook or Google, those websites are so big, Google's not going to notice. You still have to be a little careful that you don't come off as being black hat, but it's way less likely you're going to get some type of penalty. Still a possibility, but it's way less likely you're going to get a penalty for doing this, doing those directly to your main site. So anyway, that was like really complicated and weird and kind of stupid. Questions?
So with this program here, is it the tier 1 site that is going to be ranking well for the keyword question?
No. So you're going to do it as a pass through, because you're not sending enough links to this to get it to rank, and like sometimes it might, but I usually just do like branded anchors. So like we were talking about with the backlinks, branded anchors like Tidy Casa or Tidy Casa Home Cleaning, maybe Tidy Casa Phoenix, just going to the Yelp page. And then that makes the Yelp page a little bit more authoritative. And then that makes this a little bit more authoritative. So the value of that citation, and this is another thing that matters a lot. So, of the 200 links that you build, there's going to be like 3 or 4, citations. There's going to be like 3 or 4 of those that like make the most difference. And that's going to be the big ones like Yelp and Facebook, because Google knows that Yelp is sending you a postcard. It's a highly authoritative website. They verified your address with a postcard. This is probably a pretty legit business. So they hold that to higher esteem in their algorithm.
So I just have a VA create a bunch of spammy backlinks to my Yelp profile.
You got to be careful. You don't want to like just have like 1,000 of them. So like my Yelp page, for example, has 60 links to it.
Okay.
That kind of gives you a decent idea, and you just kind of want to.
Can we see that if we go on your Yelp page?
No, you'd have to use a like Ahrefs to kind of figure out that that's even happening.
So I would throw my Yelp page into Ahrefs though, and then I can track.
Yeah, so like I've been having trouble ranking in Tucson, and I was like, what am I doing in Phoenix is different? And that was like the only thing. Like I've gone through all the processes in Tucson, but I couldn't quite rank and get there. And it was because, you know, my Yelp page in Phoenix has 60 backlinks and this one has 20.
And that's gonna help with maps or just organic, or maybe a little of everything?
It's gonna do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, you want to be careful because you can totally cut your own head off.
So that's like putting the link yelp.com/Queen Denver
Yep.
on, you know.
And so like if you do a press release or you get on the news somewhere, instead of maybe telling them like, hey, link to my website. And then the other thing too is even if this starts ranking, you're still getting that.
Reviews, much better reviews, and we've been like established company, but we don't show on the map or like
Yeah.
in the top
Yeah.
part, and look at our competitors showing number one there.
Yeah.
So is there some sort of like tool where you can plug in?
The best
and
tool to
figure out-
visualize and give them like a here's what you should do is Moz Local. So it's part of their sales process and you can free.
What is it?
Moz Local. So let me see if I can pull it up real quick. If my computer decides to work. Oh, back to my notes.
Has a really good tool as well.
A lot of them do. I like Moz's because you don't have to be a part of anything. Because so before you even go, there's this button up here, check my presence. You click on that, and then it'll ask you for like your business address and the company name. I was having trouble with this a little while ago.
You can check your competition too.
Anybody. Why am I having trouble remembering my street name? It was like my old apartment. Let's see if they need it. Oh, damn it. I'm gonna Google myself real quick. This is why I was gonna be embarrassed. Yeah, I'm just drawing a blank. Oh, and I'm hiding it, of course. Legitimately, I verified my, it's not on here either. Well, anyway, you can check it. I verified my old apartment like before I started this, and I haven't ever updated it because it messes with your citations and things. So that's why I'm having trouble remembering. 600 North 4th Street. I just want that. So let's check it out. Yeah, then it goes and looks at the directories and it'll give you like a, you know, if you're not ranking well, these will all be like red check marks. And it's got like a completeness profile down here. So it gives you like a really good, you know, this